What is up, everybody? Good morning to you. I hope you had a great weekend. Monday starts off, at least from a boxing standpoint, with an interesting email. Most Valuable Promotions, which is Jake Paul's promotional company, put out a statement today saying that the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight was not rigged. Um, which I said from the beginning. I said before the fight, I didn't think it was going to be rigged. And as immediately after the fight, I said I thought it was a legitimate fight. Now, I'm going to get into why I think a lot of people thought it was rigged and some of the unforeseen consequences of making these kind of matches. But let me first just read a little bit about what was said in this press release. So, in the press release, it starts following the wide circulation of incorrect and baseless claims that undermine the integrity of the Paul versus Tyson event. Most Valuable Promotions would like to set the record straight regarding the contractual agreements and the nature of the fight. Rigging a professional boxing match is a federal crime in the United States of America. Paul versus Tyson was a professional match sanctioned by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. Both fighters in good faith performed to the best of their abilities with the goal of winning the fight. And it goes on from there, but I will stop right there for now. And that is what I said before the fight. It is what I said in the immediate aftermath of the fight. The fight was not rigged. But what it was a lot of you fans so badly wanted to see the old Mike Tyson return. And no matter how many of us told you it wasn't going to happen, you believed it anyways. And you wanted to see Jake Paul get knocked out, and you wanted to see Mike Tyson give him his comeuppance. And believe me, I understand that. But there was never a chance, zero chance, that you were going to see Mike Tyson look like he looked when he was 30 years old. He was 58 years old, and he used social media tricks to trick you into thinking that he looked like he was back to the old Mike Tyson, powerful, quick, and fast, and in great shape. Give him credit, right? He went 8 rounds and Jake Paul won a decision. Give Mike Tyson credit. There are very few 58-year-old men that can go 8 rounds with anybody, even 8 2-minute rounds. I mean, that takes a lot of cardio, and just doing what Mike did was remarkable. But to expect Mike to come out there and to somehow become the 1992 or 1995 version of himself, or even the 1986 version of himself when he won the title, was just asking a lot. And I said this to so many people when you saw the clips that were shared on social media. Number one, you saw things spliced together, but number two, mostly what you saw was 5 or 8 seconds of him hitting a heavy bag or him hitting mitts, neither of which was punching back at him, right? Now, all of a sudden in a fight, and he's got to do this for a long period of time, number one. And number two, he's got to worry about getting punched back. It is an entirely different thing. And I tried to tell you before the fight, this fight was, Tyson was shot long, long ago. In his last 2 fights against Danny Williams and Kevin McBride, neither one of whom would have been a pimple on his butt during the prime of his career, he was completely shot and couldn't do anything against either of those guys. How did you think that 20 years later, when he was 58 years old, that he was somehow going to find the fountain of the youth? It was just fallacy to think that was ever going to happen. And if you thought that was going to happen, you really don't know boxing. That is just the bottom line in this. Now, the problem with this is the matchmaking. These are the kind of fights that Jake Paul is taking. I have given Jake Paul credit for many things in boxing. He has gotten a lot better than anybody would have ever thought he is. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. But it's kind of like a guy who says his goal as a golfer is to get on the PGA Tour and win a tournament, and he's never golfed before, and then he starts, and in 3 or 4 years, maybe he's shooting 70 or 71 occasionally. That doesn't prove he's good enough to win the Masters or the US Open or even any PGA Tour tournament. It shows that he's a good amateur golfer. There is a vast difference between being a good amateur golfer and being able to compete in the PGA Tour level events. And the same is true in boxing. At his best, Jake Paul is a mid-level, cruiserweight boxer, right? That is what he is. He is not going to be a world champion. He is not going to be a guy that is ranked in the pound for pound list. None of that is true. And now I understand, and his team will tell you, well, he's young, he doesn't have any amateur background, and so he's taking fights against low-level opponents. And yes, that is true. And that boxing, they take those kind of fights all the time. But it also tells you what they know about him, right? And he's fighting MMA fighters, and he's fighting 58-year-old boxers, and he's fighting NBA fighters and social media stars. He's making money. God bless him. I'm happy for him for that. He is showing other boxers how to market. God bless him. Believe me, boxing needs that. Boxing needs the positive PR that Jake Paul has kind of created, right? Paul gets ripped, and of course, his promoter Nakisa Bidarian, kind of tries to make him out to be the victim every time he talks about him publicly. I mean, Jake is no victim. He is making a lot of money, and he is very successful, and God bless him for it. And he talks about what he's done for women's boxing, and while I agree to an extent, it's not women's boxing, it's Amanda Serrano. They haven't embraced women's boxing to a degree where they're promoting and marketing all these women at a high level. They're doing that to Amanda Serrano and really nobody else. I'm glad that they're doing it to Amanda Serrano, because we got to see the Katie Taylor fight rematch, which was a fantastic bout on the Paul Tyson undercard. And we're getting to see some fights that are entertaining. But if they want to say that they're making a difference for women's boxing, don't just put other women on the cards, but promote their fights. That has yet to be done, and that's what should be done. But I'm going to give them credit for doing what they've done with Amanda Serrano. They recognized an elite talent, and they have promoted her well, and they've made her some money, and they've made her a lot of success. So, I really like that. But if by taking these fights, you just invite this kind of criticism and this kind of speculation, right? And people are putting these videos out, and they're trying to show where Mike Tyson could have hit Paul and he didn't hit him. I had a really close friend of mine the morning after the fight send me one of these videos. And I said exactly what Jake Paul later said on X. I said to him, yeah, nobody's punching him back in those other videos, but now in the fight, he's getting punched back. So he's got to be careful. And he knows his reflexes. He knows his hand speed. He knows what he has across from him. And he knows that he couldn't have thrown that punch without getting countered badly. So if you want to say it was a fixed fight, it was fixed from the standpoint that the opponent had no chance to win going in because he was 58 years old. There was no plan where they said, hey, you take a dive or don't throw punches or don't. That is baloney. And you don't understand boxing if you think that. You just absolutely don't understand it. But I think that by putting on these kinds of fights, you're inviting that speculation. That's what I hate so much about it. Like, I want to see people make money, and I want to see people be successful. And so, when I know Paul's making an 8-figure payday, it's hard to be critical because I'm happy that any boxer is making that kind of money, because it opens the door for other boxers in the future to do it. But having said that, these matches undermine the sport's credibility, right? If Jake Paul says he wants to become the cruiserweight champion of the world, I don't think he has a snowball's chance in hell. But prove me wrong. Start fighting guys. You don't have to fight top 10 guys now, but start fighting guys that are, 15 to 25 in that range in the rankings, and see how you do and try to push yourself. But don't go out there and fight MMA fighters and rappers and NBA players, because you're just inviting this kind of criticism. Now, let me read the quote from Nakisa Bidarian. who was the co-founder of MVP, he put this quote out in the press release, and of course it's self-serving and it paints Jake Paul as the victim. But I want to read what Nakisa had to say. He said, "This is not the first time Jake Paul has faced unfounded skepticism or outright disbelief as a professional athlete, and frankly, the claim that his bout must have been rigged is just the latest backhanded compliment to come his way. From day one in this sport, people have doubted his abilities, unable to reconcile how someone with his background has accomplished so much in such a short period of time. Jake has not only proven himself repeatedly, but he has continuously set historic records that speak for themselves. This event, which broke attendance and viewership milestones for a professional sporting event, is yet another example of his ability to deliver on the biggest stage. As long as Jake continues to exceed expectations, there will always be those who try to discredit his achievements. We embrace the doubt. It only fuels Jake to work harder and achieve greater success." Jake has had phenomenal success marketing his boxing and promoting his boxing. Phenomenal success. But he's doing it against basically fighters that have no chance. And if we want to see boxing succeed, what we want is we want to see elite, evenly matched fighters competing against each other. That is ultimately when the sport is at its best. Even if they're mid-level fighters or lower level fighters, if they are evenly matched, the fight can be entertaining. It doesn't mean it always is, especially when they're lower level fighters, but when they're mid-level fighters and up, they can make the fights entertaining if they're evenly matched. But with Paul, we're getting these matches where the B side has almost no chance to win, and it's just the same thing over and over and over. So I hope that this influencer boxing goes away. And if Jake Paul wants to get rid of all this controversy and get rid of these allegations that fights are rigged, then do it the right way. Go start fighting people who can actually fight, that we know can fight. And if you beat them, I guarantee you, you will get the respect you deserve. I respect Jake Paul. I respect the business acumen he has. I respect everything he's done. He's turned promoting boxing into this great marketing event. He's got other products that he puts out there that are doing well because of the marketing that he got for them in the boxing events. He's doing a lot of great things. Right now, he's simply not a great fighter. Having said that, look, Tyson is eons, 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 worlds, universes, galaxies, whatever you want to say, better of a fighter than Jake Paul. He just happens to be 58 years old and Jake Paul is 27. If they fought anywhere close to Mike's prime, Jake Paul would have been on his back with drool coming out his mouth and blood coming out his nose. There is no chance he would have ever fought Mike Tyson because he knows what would have happened. But he knew a 58-year-old Mike Tyson wasn't going to be able to hurt him, and that's why the fight was staged. They both made a lot of money. Nobody got hurt. And the only thing that got hurt, again, was the reputation of boxing because people were saying the fight was fixed. I agree with Nakisa Bidarian and Jake Paul. The fight wasn't rigged, but you have to do better, guys, when you're making your next matches.